Hey guys, it's Drexel here with Black Hollywood Live's Political Culture. Today, we're talking about Terrence Crutcher. The Obama family has hit the trail, terror in NYC, and we've got attorney Areva Martin right here in the studio. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into Black Hollywood Live, Political Culture.
We are waiting on the world to change. Welcome to Black Hollywood Live's Political Culture. I'm your host, Drexel Heard. You can follow me at Drexel Heard.
Hey guys, I'm Elayna. You can follow me on all social platforms at Hey It's Lay.
What's going on, everybody? My name is B. Sorrells. You can follow me at B. Sorrells.
And right here in the studio,
yes,
today's guest attorney, Areva Martin.
Yay!
You've seen her on CNN.
Yes.
You've seen her on
Good Morning America.
Dr. America, Dr. Phil.
America.
But you didn't do Dr. Oz, though, did you? Or Jimmy Fallon didn't.
No. Didn't mess with my hair. No. That's a no for a black woman.
Right,
you know that.
Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to the studio.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
So listen, let's jump right into a few things. I took the week off, so thanks, Elayna, for jumping in the chair. And you guys, I was in the chat room. I was watching. I could
Doing
not
too
make
much?
it.
You were in the chat room doing entirely
I was trying to
too
give
much.
you. I was like, let me just join the conversation.
If you're not
You were in there with the fans typing it out.
I just wanted to join the conversation. You guys can join the conversation,
Yes,
just like
absolutely.
us in the chat room. I'm watching here, or you can tweet us at BHL Polyculture on Twitter and use the hashtag BHLPC.
Absolutely.
Okay, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Terrence Crutcher. Probably, I don't even know what number this is just yet.
Yeah.
So we saw what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I don't know if you guys have seen the video. If you haven't, you can YouTube it. Terrence Crutcher was stalled on the side of the road in Tulsa. And a bunch of cops came out of nowhere. First of all, there were more cops that came to the scene for a pulled over car. First of all, that was my first question.
That's what I was about to say.
Second
yes.
question that I had was, why was there a helicopter?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
was this a chase?
Yeah.
Was this?
Well, I can give you a little information
Yes.
about perhaps why. We don't know exactly why because the chief of police has not come out with the facts, but I was on a show earlier today and we learned that apparently in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they have a system, and if they run a plate, they can get a lot of history about who the car is registered to. And in this case, we're hearing, and this has not been confirmed, but this is what's being put out there, is that Mr. Crutcher had a pretty substantial criminal history. And when they ran his plate, some things came up that gave the police concern, like he had a history of using a firearm, like he had a history of attempting to shoot at someone. He had drug possession, all kinds of stuff. So that may explain, or at least that will be probably the explanation we hear for why there was that incredible showing of officers.
Yeah, because that was very confusing to me when I watched it. That was the first question. I was like, why?
Yeah.
The story was to us, hey, you got this guy stalled on the side of the road. That's all we heard.
The other story that I received was just that the actual officers were on their way to another incident. They weren't actually on their way to Terrence, and he just happened to be stalled while they were going to their destination. And then I guess they may have ran, if the story is confirmed later on, maybe that's when they ran the license plate, and his record came up. We don't know. Obviously, we can only get what they feed us. I think regardless of his record, though, and regardless of the situations that were at hand, we clearly saw him with his hands up, walking away, abiding with them. We didn't see him, like, obviously we don't know what he was saying, but physically, at least reading body language, he wasn't a threat.
He appeared to be completely complying with the commands of the police. And I think that's what's so frustrating about these cases. We see with our eyes African-American men unarmed appearing to follow the instructions of the police officer. So if you can't get out of your car, raise your hands, and if that doesn't prevent you from being shot, we saw the man in Florida who was with the autistic client that he had. Remember, he laid on the ground in like a swimming position, and he was shot. So it just is so frustrating to watch video after video of unarmed African-American men being shot by white police police officers.
Absolutely. And I guess my question was, there was another story that was released, and they said that they may have found a PCP in his car. Now, and I said, okay, but it raised a little bit of, question, was because the police chief had just already released and came out and said there was nothing found in his car. He didn't have a gun on him and everything. So it's like you had enough information to check the car to say that he didn't have a gun, but you didn't know that there was any drugs to report at that time.
Well, this
so
is
that
a pretty
was kind of,
common narrative. If you notice
absolutely.
with most of these cases, there's quickly the dissemination of negative information, background information about the victim to, really paint the victim in a negative light, to shift the attention away from the perpetrator, the police officer, and cause you to then start questioning the victim. To really, they defile, in most cases, the victims. We've seen them do it with teenagers. They don't put the high school graduation picture. They show you what looks like the mugshot. So all of these things to reinforce these negative stereotypes that people already have of African American men.
Absolutely.
So from an attorney perspective, what do you think? Obviously these cases are very individual cases. What happened in Baltimore, what happened in New Jersey, what happened in Florida, what happened in North Carolina with the deaf man being shot. And so what, from my perspective of it, I'm like, well, this has to be the straw, because this was very, very specific. Now, I understand from the viewpoint of the cops, if the case is, yes, they ran the plates and this was what they got. But somebody on my Facebook, because I love me some Facebook.
I was going to say.
Somebody brought up the fact that, somebody gave the excuse of, the cop was just too trigger happy, was too spooked. They used the word spooked. And I said, well, if you're spooked, you probably shouldn't be a police officer.
Yeah, there we go.
But why do you think this is the straw? Is this more egregious to you than Walter Scott?
No, absolutely not me. I'm saying that I think that the narrative that we're hearing right now is everybody's a little bit more outraged. I don't know. I just feel like everybody's a little bit more...
No, I think the opposite, Drexel. I think people are rather numb. If you look at the national news today, this has not been the nationally televised story. You know what's getting more attention than this story?
Angelina divorce. But the reason why, it's almost like they're trying to desensitize us as a community. With story after story. And even with the police officer being trigger happy a little bit, the other cop, before she shot, tased him. Why go?
Well, I think one cop tased him, one cop tased him, and one cop shot him.
Yeah.
Right.
So Shelby,
So again, I'm going to tell you what the attorney.
Betty Shelby.
I'm going to tell you what the attorney, and I'm just repeating what the attorney for Shelby is saying. He has said that Shelby, one, had a lot of training with drugs and drug enforcement, and she had worked in that particular division of the police force. And when they ran this plate, they knew this history that they're alleging that Mr. Crutcher had, and that although we see the images of his hands up, they're saying that what we don't see in the video, and we often hear this narrative by the police, is that he lowered his hand, and that she believed that he was lowering his hand and going into the car possibly for some kind of weapon, and again putting that together with his prior record. So you're going to hear this narrative, which we hear all the time. The police believed at that moment that they were in danger, that they were in imminent danger, that there was some danger to their lives, being shot, being killed by what they would call the suspect. So expect to hear that narrative. We hear it all the time. We hear the investigation is ongoing. We hear the officer's been placed on administrative leave. So I can pretty much script for you how this is going to go.
And I guess my question is, just as an attorney, do you think that when she gets her charge and she has to go to court, do you think that her lawyer, if she does, do you think that her lawyer will argue that she was trying to draw for her taser instead of her gun?
No, I think the lawyer will say she had the history, if this history is true, of his criminal background and arrest record, that he made a move that caused her to believe he could have been going for a weapon, and in that split second that her actions were reasonable. That is the argument that you will hear from the police officers.
So then if there were 4 or 5 cops around him?
It was 4 officers
standing in front of him. Why was she the only one that drew her weapon?
How
does she have time to draw her weapon and shoot before any other cop saw what was happening?
We don't know that. And
that's going to be. If I was a cop, I'd be like, that's the question.
And she had already failed when the other officer had already tased her. So if he's already on the ground, which means he's on the ground.
Well, I don't think he was on the ground. I think he was still up against the car.
I thought he failed. I'm like, why would you still pull your gun when
But even him moving, it was it could have been, obviously this is speculation, it could have been a reaction to him being tased, because the shot came second. So
I'm glad you guys are outraged by this because when we move into politics, this is going. I got a great segue into politics about why the things that you millennials are saying trouble me because you're so outraged about police brutality. But what I'm hearing about what you plan to do in this election, it doesn't add up.
We're always in trouble.
So-
the millennials are always in trouble.
That's it.
So,
Which is why we have this
speaking
show.
of segueing into the politics of this situation, so Hillary Clinton sent out a tweet earlier this afternoon. She said, you can pull it up in the booth. Another unarmed black man was shot in a police incident. This should be intolerable. We have so much work to do. Hashtag Terrence Crutcher. And then if she tweets it out herself, then she puts an H up there. And then Donald Trump didn't tweet at all about it. But he did write this.
Really?
Odd. But he did tweet this. He just said, do people notice Hillary is copying my airplane rallies? She put the plane behind her like I have been doing from the beginning, not realizing that every president always has the plane behind them, or every presidential candidate always has a plane behind them.
No, poor Donald thinks he has created everything.
He is the inventor of it all.
Everything.
So, okay.
He's the center.
So
Of the
obviously,
universe. Of all of our universes.
so this is coming on the heels of and we'll talk about it a little bit later, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation dinner. How do you think that, and I know, Areva, you tweeted out earlier today just about the presidential debates, bringing this topic up in the presidential debates. How do you think that the presidential candidates should be navigating what their campaigns would see as a landmine?
I think this is a golden opportunity for the Clinton campaign to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Your generation. I read a disturbing article this morning after Obama appeared at the Congressional Black Caucus dinner, made that plea to black Congress people and the guests at that dinner saying, look, hope is on the ballot. My legacy is on the ballot. Everything I've worked for is on the ballot.
Well, we're going to show that clip a little bit later,
So,
too. Yeah.
I think Clinton, starting with that tweet about Mr. Crutcher, has this opportunity to reach out to you all. If millennials care about what they saw in that video and every other police shooting video, the concept that they are going to wage a protest vote for third-party candidates that cannot win, that essentially will take votes from the Democratic candidate, give Donald Trump an opportunity to win in some key swing states, is troubling to me. Because you can't care about what happened to Mr. Crutcher if you don't recognize the dangerous position that you are taking when you say you're going to vote for a third-party candidate. And let me bring it all the way back to your point about how this officer may attempt to claim she was afraid. You say, was it a reflex? There's a case decided, 1985, Tennessee v. Gardner. It set the legal standard that allows cops to essentially claim justification in shootings. I think it's time to revisit that case, change that standard so that it is not easy for cops to claim I was afraid, I felt imminent danger, that they've got to prove more. It makes it easier for prosecutors then to prosecute police officers. So how does that happen? How do we revisit Tennessee v. Gardner?
How do you think so? If you
That's a question.
Yeah. That is a question, and to which I say, how do you revisit that when the police union is as powerful as it is in the country? Trying to get the conversation started. How do you do that?
You revisit it because a case like Crutcher and so many others, lawsuits are filed, federal lawsuits.
Civil
they
suits.
work their way up to the United States Supreme Court, and the court has an opportunity to review the Gardner decision and decisions after Gardner that reaffirms the position that cops often rely upon, and to overturn Gardner, to have a new standard set that will allow prosecutions to happen easier. So we'll see more prosecutions happening. We need how many votes?
Yeah.
Five.
Five.
How many do we have now?
Yeah.
4. How do we get?
Trying to get one more?
How do we get a 5th vote? Do we get it with a third-party candidate?
surely do
no.
not.
Do we get it with Donald Trump?
No.
Do we get it with Hillary
no.
Clinton?
Yes.
I rest my case.
I think though, although I think at least for the millennials, at least the ones that I've been having conversations with, it's not even that they're so anti-Hillary. It's like, yes, she can give us that 5th vote to overturn this case, to give us the results that we need when we're angry and we're outraged about, these injustices that are constantly happening. I think it's more so them feeling like they have to like, it's an exchange. Like, in order for me to get you to fight for me, I have to, I guess, go against my inner will. So they have trust issues. Like, there's this, and I don't know, the people that I've been having conversations with, at least the millennials who are against voting for Hillary or Trump, they have yet to come up with a concrete reason why they don't want to vote for it outside of feelings. Like, at this point, it's just feelings, which I can relate to in a sense, because I still don't know if I can fully trust her. Would I trust her more than Donald Trump? Absolutely.
But that's all that matters, because in this race, you only have 2 choices. So your protest vote is essentially a vote for Donald Trump. And you all have a platform here. You have a unique opportunity to speak to millennials, to educate them. In this article that I go back to, it says, well, Hillary hasn't addressed our issues on economic disparities. And I says, did you all miss the DNC and the platform committee
watching this election
meeting
at all?
that happened where the Clinton and the Sanders people went to Florida, and Clinton adopted pretty much every platform position of Sanders, which we were told millennials were behind Sanders. Even for the $15 increase in minimum wage, free public tuition for junior colleges, debt relief for college students, those are all a part of the Clinton campaign platform. So when you say she's not addressing those issues, those are the same issues that caused you to rally around Sanders. So
to be in favor for Bernie Sanders, which is why I say I don't even think that they're paying attention to the facts. I think it's more so emotionally driven.
And I think they're still a little. I mean, the primary was ended only like a couple of months ago, and I do think that Hillary Clinton, she kicked off her millennial outreach this week, giving her first speech on Tuesday. Or wait, was it yesterday? Maybe sometime last week. She did a little bit last week, and she wrote a whole article in Mike Magazine where she laid out what her vision is for getting millennials engaged. So I think the Clinton campaign is certainly turning the tide back to where they know their weak spot is right now, and that is getting millennials back on board. Bernie Sanders was out on the trail. Elizabeth Warren was back out on the trail twice this week, for the second time over the weekend. So I think they're starting to bring out the heavy hitters, which brings me to the fact that we're 49 days away from the election, 6 days away from the debate, and the Obamas have hit the trail.
They have.
And I feel like the Obamas are going to, I mean, they are a force on the trail. I don't know if you guys saw Michelle's speech. I think she was in Virginia, maybe. She gave a really great speech. You guys see that speech last week?
Yeah.
She's just
it was everything's overshadowed by Trump. I don't think they gave it nearly the attention
coverage
that it deserved,
Right.
but it was a powerful speech.
Absolutely.
Even when we get to Obama's speech, like, I felt like he was like, your mama ever chewed you out and you just don't even want to look at her? You just be like,
well, so Obama was out two times last week. He kicked off in Philadelphia.
He was in Philadelphia.
He was in Philadelphia last week. I mean, it was huge.
It was a Bernie Sanders-like rally. It was old school Obama, 2008.
I was, he had his sleeves rolled. If you see the photo, he got his sleeves rolled up. Yes, he said, I'm out to come out here to work for Hillary Clinton out here. And, then President Obama side note, how much more do you guys think that the Obamas have to be out for Hillary Clinton over the next few days?
Every day.
I was supposed to say, it's critical.
His approval rating is over
like 58%.
55, almost 60% higher than any president in modern time.
Right.
He is probably one of the most loved Democrats.
Yes.
Second to his wife, Michelle, who's not in public office.
Second to his wife.
And we need to see them, particularly because we know African American, our vote can make or break a presidential election. And he has over 85-90% of the African American approval rating. His approval rating is that high amongst African Americans, and I think we need reassurance.
I was just about to say,
talk about those
reassurance.
feelings.
Yeah.
We need people we do trust, people we revere, people that we've have just felt so proud of, to reassure us that this is the way to go. The thing that's scary for me in listening to that CBC speech, I felt that passion that he was just bringing it.
He had all the slang and all. He was like,
Well,
nah, like
well,
you won't do it.
Yeah, he was in his
Hold on.
Obama swag for sure.
Let's listen to some of that Obama slang real quick. If we get it. I'll So he spoke at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation dinner, Friday? And he spoke for about 20 minutes. 22 minutes. And, he started talking about things, obviously this is like farewell address, and which he's been doing. Today he was at the UN.
Oh, he's making the rounds.
And he just gave, he gave his great speech, but he also talked about, he kind of brought up the election, didn't obviously bring up Hillary Clinton at the United Nations, but talked about the ideals that Donald Trump has been bringing to the campaign and that don't represent America. And it's almost reassuring the other nations that everything's going to be okay.
In America, right.
Let's see if we can get that video back up.
If you want to give Michelle and me a good send-off, and that was a beautiful video, but don't just watch us walk off into the sunset now. Get people registered to vote.
Yep.
If you care about our legacy, realize everything we stand for is at stake. All the progress we've made is at stake in this election. My name may not be on the ballot, but our progress is on the ballot. Tolerance is on the ballot. Democracy is on the ballot. Justice is on the ballot. Good schools are on the ballot. Ending mass incarceration, that's on the ballot right now.
So,
He's giving
That-
that old school
you know,
pastor.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I wanted to
Take you to church on that one.
That's the down south type pastor.
and right after he finished, saying mass incarceration, he said there's only one candidate on the ballot that will give us what we need
That
right now,
legacy,
this
huh?
progress, and that can fulfill that legacy, and that's Hillary Clinton.
So that was Saturday night. So Saturday afternoon was at Black Harvard alumni reunion. Loretta Lynch was the keynote speaker. And
Attorney General, for those
Attorney
that-
General,
Yeah.
U.S. Attorney General, first African-American female,
Yeah.
following Eric Holder, the first African-American male Attorney General. And I go back to you millennials. I know you're not feeling it yet, but I'm here to help you feel it. Not only the Supreme Court, all of those investigations, Ferguson, that unearthed all of that evidence of disparate treatment of African Americans, using African Americans, giving them tickets to finance the city, the Baltimore investigation, the Cleveland, Ohio investigation, all of those happened on the dime of Eric Holder and now Loretta Lynch.
And if you believe
That's not a given. That's not required by the Attorney General. That's the discretion of the Attorney General.
And it goes back to another point that we always talk about is for-profit prisons. If you believe that we should be shutting down for-profit prisons across the country, there's only one Justice Department that has done that, and that is the Loretta Lynch Justice
That is the
Department.
Loretta.
And that is the Democratic Party pushing that in. Bernie Sanders going out there, Hillary Clinton going out there saying we're going to shut down for-profit prisons, and the Obama administration said we're just going to do it right now.
Let's talk about weed.
Marijuana.
Marijuana.
Because I thought you said let's talk about weed. Weed.
Weed. W-E-E-D.
I mean,
marijuana. Sentencing. The Obama administration.
Right.
Changing the sentencing, all of those draconian sentences that African American receive for crack cocaine and for marijuana and for nonviolent offenses that broke up families, incarcerated men, usually men and some women, for decades.
Yeah.
Obama said enough.
Yep.
Right.
These people need to be given punishment, but they also need rehabilitation, and it is not doing us any good to have people in jail for decades because they had
Because of a
some
drug
crack
issue,
cocaine,
yeah.
because they needed rehabilitation.
Well,
Exactly.
They were
he's
addicted to
done
drugs.
like some 200 commuted sentences
A little bit.
Yeah.
in the past year.
Yeah, release some.
Now juxtapose that with Rudy Giuliani.
Oh.
Yeah, who said all's fair in war, and in the past 2 weeks or
And
whatever.
Trump, who said he will be the law and order.
Right. which is what Richard
candidates.
Nixon was.
And
or
if
Richard Nixon
you
was, I
guys are
believe.
young, but that's code for we're going to be cracking heads in the hood.
Right.
That's,
Oh, yeah.
But
that's
you
what it
asked the
means.
question. You said, do we need the Obamas on the trail for the upcoming days? This is why we need them. Because even with Obama's getting us in check for, 25 seconds, we need that reassurance, just like, you said. We need to hear we trust him. We love
Yes.
him. So we almost kind of, we follow his leadership.
Right.
We follow
Absolutely.
their leadership.
But the other problem that the Obama administration has always had, and I always gave the president a little shit for it, is the fact that he doesn't like to brag about a lot of things.
Right.
No,
He's
the worst at
telling
telling his story.
And so we saw that in 2010 when the wave of Republicans kind of took over, and then we saw the Democrats kind of jump back on board when they need to get reelected in 2012. We're seeing it again now, where Democrats are kind of on trying to figure out how they campaign with Hillary Clinton at the same time. So Democrats, as they always say, Republicans fall in line, Democrats fall in love. Democrats have to start falling both in line and in love if they want the issues that they care about raised. And you're not going to get that from Gary Johnson, and you're definitely not going to get that from Jill Stein.
They didn't even qualify for the debate.
Well,
so why are you
that
voting
aside-
for
well,
a
that
candidate that
well,
couldn't
that
even
too.
get 15% of the...
But that aside, policy-wise, they do not. They have no governing policy. Like, it's all pie in the sky. I would never have said that. No time during the primary did I ever say Bernie Sanders' issues or policy proposals were pie in the sky. I know a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters did, but that wasn't my position. However,
You might have said something close to that.
I'm saying it would be very difficult for that to happen because there are 50 states that the president now has to kind of deal with. Republicans control 39 governor houses.
Yeah.
You can't put forth a progressive socialist policy plan and think that the governors are going to help you do that. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, kind of rides that line between that moderate left candidate where she can say, okay, I hear you, let's see what you can do in Kentucky, because we can't do that in California, but let's try to figure it out.
And let's do a little civics here, a little civics lesson. So if Donald Trump is the president, that means in the executive branch of government, there's a Republican.
Right.
That means the Senate will likely, because if he wins, that means those senatorial candidates win as well. So now we have a Senate that's controlled by Republicans. We know the House is not
Not gonna
flipping.
change.
It's going to be a Republican House. So that means any policy...
No, and then don't forget the Supreme Court.
The
because
Supreme,
will
that means
switch
his appointment.
over
And
to
the Attorney
a
General.
conservative.
So we got the Attorney General, we got the Supreme Court. So we have every branch of government that is the checks and balance
Right.
now controlled by one party. So
Right.
Voting Rights Act, forget about it.
Forget about
that
it.
victory
Don't
we
throw that
just
out.
won in North Carolina, we can check that off.
Right.
Obamacare, Trump said
Check
the
that out. I was
first
about to
30
say-
days.
I was about to say he's about to
gone.
get rid of that,
He said
yep.
gone. So, and again, criminal justice reform, mass incarceration. So that means right now, the only thing Obama has is the power of the veto. And that's been
Yeah.
very powerful.
Right.
So he's been able to block a lot of the draconian policies of the Republicans. If a Republican is sitting in that seat,
There's no blocking.
send it over, man. I got
Right.
you.
Yeah.
I got you. And that's it.
Speaking of policy, I just want to move into a couple of things, and then we'll just talk briefly about things that happened in New York City over the weekend. But because I want to segue for what you were talking about in policy, so Donald Trump kind of rolled out his education policy last week. And his economic policy, he's been kind of doing back-to-back stuff, which is great. I think that the more people hear about his policies, the more afraid they should be. So, but what stuck out, and what is the biggest part of his education policy is school choice, as Republicans have been trying to do over the past few years, which obviously disproportionately affects the African American community. So you probably shouldn't be voting for Donald Trump at all if you really want, So
Criminal justice,
it's
no.
a
Now
livelihood.
education,
It's a
no.
livelihood.
and if you
It's
listen to
livelihood.
and Barack Obama, President Obama was correct to say in his speech to the Congressional Caucus that schools are on the ballot. Schools are on the ballot because we saw that in Trump's $20 billion charter school grant policy that he's put. $20 billion. Now the education budget is 9% of the federal budget. Only 9, whereas defense takes up about 40%. So he said that $20 billion grants would come from the existing federal spending, which is already 9%.
Right.
So if you're using $20 billion of 9% of the budget,
That's all of it.
Why can't as the Democrats plan and the Clinton plan, why can't you put that $20 billion back into public schools? If you are so concerned about schools crumbling schools, not great teachers. Why aren't you investing that $20 billion back in the school?
Well, that's the problem with most of Trump's policies. They're not well thought
policies.
out.
I won't even say Trump policies. I'll say Republican policies.
Well, they're not well thought out. And if you're a Republican, you're not for raising taxes, right? So the question becomes, how are you going to pay for this? And usually he just says, we're going to get rid of fraud and waste. That's not enough to pay for all of these programs. And the second thing that bothers me about his education policy is he wants to do away with the U.S. Department of Education. Right. He wants to shift all of this emphasis to charter schools. We know in African American communities, it's the public schools. The charter schools often cherry pick the better students, and they leave in the schools the foster care kids, the kids who have remedial learning issues, who have special needs. So we're not going to be a school, a nation of all private and charter schools. We're a nation of public schools. So we got to have policies that invest in those public schools, and we need a U.S. Department of Education
to set the
standards and to ensure that states run by Republicans like Michigan don't go and drain all the resources out of schools like Detroit. And then you get Republicans that say, well, the Democrats have run Detroit all these years, and look how bad it's doing.
Republicans have run Michigan
Yeah,
for
they've
quite
run
a
Michigan.
while.
So it's such a half story.
Or their
whitewashing,
whitewashing history in their history books.
Yeah.
If listen, I believe that in states' rights from a constitutional standpoint, I think that at some level, most everybody believes that you know how to run the state of California a little bit better than somebody that's sitting high in the from Alaska, a senator from Alaska, trying to run education policy. But in states like Texas, where they are rewriting the Civil Rights Act or writing it out, or the Indian American War out, like things just did not happen.
This is true.
That's the time where the federal government has to step in, and I think
there's something called federalism,
Right.
which is why we have the federal government, which is why we have federal laws that trump state laws, because again, that checks and balances. That's what this democracy is made of, and if we do away with that, then it's a scary
chaos.
I think the most important takeaway from even this conversation at all for our viewers is just that. So for the people who were thinking about voting in a third party, there are some millennials who are thinking about not voting at all.
Right.
So with you guys not voting at all, or with us, the takeaway is just that it's literally, don't even think about the candidates. Don't even think about Trump or Hillary Clinton. It's literally Democracy or Republican. So you're almost forfeiting who you want to run our nation, not the person-wise, the party-wise, because it's going to be more than just Trump. He's going to have an alliance of other Republicans.
He's going to have a cabinet of people that will rule the country,
and a whole
run the
legislature.
With the other democracies that are in position right now, we know that there's going to be a fight. We know that there's going to be some kind of, thought process, especially when it comes to education, and we don't have those funds.
And on the other side of that, I know we just talked about Trump's education policy, but on the Clinton side, she's got that K through 12, that pumping money back into K through 12. Pre-K programs, I'm sorry. And then on the other side, she's got the pre-K side, and then she's got the millennial side where she's saying, I hear you want to go back to school, you want to be able to pay for school, or you want to be able to refinance your loan. You won't be able to do any of that if you're allowing the Republicans to drive the narrative and drive the legislation, and you're not going to get anything. And then we're going to be sitting around in 2020 wondering what happened, and then you're going to be more in debt.
Well, we'll be sitting around on November 9th.
On November 9th, trying to figure out what we're going to do
next. And Elayna, you raise a good point. I wrote a blog that I posted on my Facebook page that says, hold your nose, stomp your feet, do whatever you have to do, but vote. Life isn't perfect, and you millennials sometimes want it to be perfect. Politics aren't perfect. You have to be pragmatic in politics, and it's not about getting everything that you want, but you have a candidate in Hillary Clinton, and I can tell you this at the DNC. I was there. I was a part of the Rules Committee. I was talking to high-level African Americans who now run the DNC, the Democratic National, Donna Brazile, the chair of the convention itself. You saw those black women on the podium, Stephanie Rollins Blake, Marsha Fudge. I mean, it was a sister thing.
It was definitely Black Girls Rock at the DNC.
But they tell me Hillary Clinton has literally more African Americans in high positions than even Barack Obama did. And her policy on things that impact our community are where they need to be. Right. So, I mean, these are high-level African Americans who are saying, look, she gets what's important to us. And we have her ear, the mothers of the movement. Now, come on. Those women have been more prominent then you can even imagine. They've taken on, celebrity status, their cause.
Which is maybe where that civil suit should come from.
Here you are.
Right.
Now giving them recognition, not because they're civil rights activists in a traditional sense, but because they've had the courage to speak out about police brutality. And Hillary Clinton has embraced them. So not a perfect candidate. And I'm the first to say, I don't understand, girlfriend, with those emails. Crazy. Don't understand it. You're running for president. You're running, get your stuff together.
Right.
But no candidate is perfect. And it's about who is going to continue the legacy of Obama and get us further to those things that are important to all of us. And I just don't think there's a choice. I cringe at the thought of a man who's been so divisive, who's been so misogynistic, who's embraced David Duke and white supremacists in the White House. His children. Some of the things that Eric Trump says and tweets are just scary.
Yeah, I forgot my pack of Skittles. At home, but so if you didn't see that tweet, you can go to Donald J. Trump Jr. and look at that
don't
tweet.
forget, we're not smart enough to understand his father's tax returns. It would just distract us because we don't have the intellect to understand the numbers of his complex tax returns. So therefore, he doesn't have to disclose his taxes the way every other presidential candidate has.
Well, what we can read? If we can't read some taxes, though, we can read or listen to something from Audible. Isn't that right, B?
Yes, you can.
That is right.
So as you know, everything is brought to you guys by free. So today we're going to be talking about Audible. We spend an ungodly amount of time on our daily commute. And the trouble is there's only so much political culture can help you do to pass the time. So when you find yourself on a gridlocked freeway, get lost in Audible audiobooks. Whether it's a mystery, thriller, memoir, or bestseller, Audible can turn your commute into another world. Just download your books or shows to your mobile device and listen while the carpoolers fly by.
And I love to listen to books on tape or books on my iPhone on the way to work. I'll listen to a little Harry Potter. I'll listen to a little Double Down, because I've got like a bunch of John Grisham novels that I read to or listen to as well. So you can listen to all that on Audible. It's really great.
Yes.
It's really great.
And so with an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, and comedy, Audible is your best source for traffic entertainment. The Audible app makes listening a breeze with features like chapter navigation and narration speed control. You can even share your favorite audio experts with friends. Audible members have access to original audio shows, short stories, audio-free podcasts, news, comedy, and more. Are you listening to anything we should check out on Audible? Tweet us your suggestion and include #AudibleGNT. And start a 30-day trial and download your first audiobook for free. You can go to audible.com/GNT to get started.
Awesome. Yes, get that on that iPhone 7. Download that app.
Well, I don't have the 7.
Let me tell you what. So I just got the iPhone 7, and I never had so much space. I was rocking 16 gigabytes. Now I don't know what to do with all the other space.
I got 16.
I'm going to download Audible. Now I can download Audible back on my phone so that I can start listening to that. So I can listen to more books. Okay. So Areva, you've been around the block a little bit. But you've also around the TV block.
You mean I'm a runner and I run around the block for my daily exercise.
You've been around the TV circuit. You've been around the TV.
Damn, it's off the gas.
You've been around the TV circuit. I've been around the TV circuit.
He couldn't get it.
Oh my gosh. See, this is why I'm always outnumbered on this show.
All right, Black Girls
What exactly are you asking me, Drexel?
You've been around the TV circuit, so I'm always excited when guests like you come on our show. So thank you for coming on here.
Absolutely.
So you posted a blog the other day that the title was "Slave Owners Didn't Decide He Was Human, and Trump Doesn't Decide That Obama Was a Citizen." That was in reference to Trump's 30-second apology that he did.
Not an apology,
or 30-second acknowledgement that he did the other day. So tell us a little bit about.
I was incensed when I saw again this. I'm not going to even call it a press conference, but when he gathered the press to make the statement that essentially he was recognizing that which was never an issue. It's like someone saying for 10 years the sky is black when everybody knows the sky is blue. And now you come out and say the sky is blue and you get a pat on the back because you've acknowledged something that was never an issue that we always knew to be the case.
Right.
And I was asked by a producer at Fox, I was going to go on a show on Fox, and she says, how did that make you feel? I said, as an African American, it just made me feel like what our ancestors must have gone through when slave owners denied their humanity, denied that they were human, that they were less than human. And then, fast forward to the civil rights movement, a recognition that, oh, guess what? I guess you are a man. I mean, like, we need his validation. How dare he, could claim that he put an end to the birther situation.
And Mike Pence repeated it today.
And then say that Hillary Clinton started it.
Right.
Just the manipulation.
Doing that.
The manipulation is scary. And Obama had some great jokes at the CBC about it. And I think he got a good kick out of, just really showing the world how ridiculous it was and how racist. I mean, what other president has had to produce their long form birth certificate? Right. It's just that kind of racism and manipulation of people that scares me about this candidate. It's very scary. And people are starting to say, well, can he? I think he can win. And I say, he can't win if we vote.
Right.
He can only win if we have this self-defeating attitude and we sit out or we don't vote for democracy. We don't vote for good schools. We don't vote for the end of mass incarceration. This is about us. This is our, in some ways, this election is more important than 08 and 12.
Oh, yeah.
Mitt Romney, we could have lived with.
Yeah.
John McCain, we could have lived with. I don't
Sarah
think
Palin,
we
I
can
don't
live.
know about
Not Sarah. But we could have lived with Mitt Romney.
Right.
Everything that we've gained as African Americans, it's at stake.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's really that serious.
So tell us a little bit more about anything that you're working on. Anything right now?
Big gala. In addition to my running around the TV block, I'm an autism advocate, and I run a nonprofit in Los Angeles called Special Needs Network for underserved communities, kids with autism. Hillary Clinton has a whole policy on autism and more funding and resources that she wants to put into the community, autism communities. So I'm doing a big gala on October 8th at the Sony Studio Lots, honoring some amazing people and raising money for autism.
Is there a website that folks can donate money?
They can go to my website, arevamartin.com. You can learn all about the work that I do with Special Needs Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Areva Martin. You can follow me on Instagram at Areva Martin. But that's where I talk about three things, current and trending events. I talk about autism, and I talk about health and fitness. I'm a huge health and fitness, I believe,
because of that running around the block.
Yeah, I run around. It's really uphill.
Right.
He's not gonna let it go.
No, that's awesome.
It's about honoring our body, relieving our stress, and just being the best that we can be as women.
Absolutely.
And men.
One man.
Women and men.
And ma'am.
So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
But you can catch me this season. I'm co-hosting on The Doctors. I'm a recurring host on The Doctors. I do
Which they shoot at Paramount, right?
They shoot right over on Paramount and Melrose. A lot of fun and high energy in morning television. A little different than what I do at night on CNN when we're going hardcore on these issues of police brutality and race and politics. But I like to mix it up.
Awesome. Well, so you can catch you on The Doctors on what network?
CBS
local listings,
2.
right?
Yeah,
CBS
local.
2.
Yeah,
And
it's a CBS show, but
listings
check your local listing.
for The Doctors, and then let us
Check
know when
me
you're back
out.
on CNN.
Yes,
and Good
follow
Morning
me.
America.
Get all of my stuff, and whether you support autism or kids, do something. We all have a role to play. Help somebody, mentor someone, donate some time, donate some money, but get involved. I think the most important thing I took away from the DNC, Obama said, "Don't boo, vote."
Don't boo.
That was my
Don't
moment
boo.
I talked about.
Don't boo, vote.
Before we get to the trending topics, I want to just briefly mention some of the things that happened out of New York City over the weekend. Yes. Not only New York City, but it was also Minnesota and New Jersey.
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
ISIS is claiming the stabbing in Minnesota, but they're always claiming something. So I just want to put a lot of stock in what they're doing. But also in New York, you had the bombing in Chelsea. But then I was watching Rachel Maddow yesterday, and she was saying that there was a couple of the bomber or the suspect the bombs in general, like the pressure cookers were all made from different materials. Like one pressure cooker was made out of one material, one pressure cooker was made out of another material. So they're trying to figure out. So there's a lot of forensic evidence. So we're definitely going to be watching that. But we're glad that nobody was killed. Maybe 29 people injured, but not a lot of people killed. And
a lot of them got released from the hospital that same night,
yep.
right?
And of course the injured out of New Jersey
and
as
they
well.
caught
So
him.
Yeah,
and they
thank
caught
God.
him.
Yes.
And Donald
Alive.
Trump tweeted out, first he tweeted out how the law enforcement weren't doing their job. Basically, it was like, I'm paraphrasing, how they weren't doing their job. And then 9 minutes later, tweeted out, great job, law enforcement. I'm like, listen, I need you to figure out what you're doing.
That's the story of his life.
His
Story of his
finger.
life.
Well, she can't
Someone
do
needs
anything
to
either. I
get
was
the
about to say,
Twitter.
Just take the Twitter account. Somebody said,
like, where's his wife at?
on the show that I do.
Oh, not the
Doing
wife
photo
that
shoots?
stole
Not
it.
even, no, you know who really needs to be out there is Ivanka. Somebody said we're going to start a save.
No.
Somebody
No.
said we're going to start a hashtag Save
No.
Ivanka
Nobody
trending
wants-
on Twitter.
Do not
On Twitter.
uplift Ivanka. Ivanka, you ask her a tough question. This is too negative. I have to go. Okay,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got to
well,
jump into the political fray.
It's,
You've got to be able to take
you
the
know,
heat.
Rich kids, they think they got it rough. B,
I know.
Tell us what else is happening around
Yes, I'm gonna make this really quick. So Netflix is coming out with an Obama movie. I'm super excited. We can't get 4 more years, but we've got another movie coming out. So
A second one. That's
a
the second one.
and it's gonna be called Barry. And so it's gonna be talking about President Obama, his college years, where he's transitioned from New York to Columbia University, and we're gonna get to see when he met Michelle and the love and all the good stuff. So super excited about that. There is no release date yet. They said that they're, I guess, shooting right now. It's a lot of big names going to be in the movie. So it should be, hopefully, my next year, it'll be hitting Netflix. And then lastly, the Emmys. I don't know if you guys got to watch the Emmys.
Did.
Yes. And so I was super excited to see Tracee Ellis Ross. She won, it's been like
her.
30 years for an African-American woman to win that.
She was
won.
nominated.
Yeah.
She won?
She won. She actually won. Yeah.
I was excited about Sterling Brown. He
His
won
His speech was great.
for playing Chris Darden. He's from St. Louis. He was so just overwhelmed. Everybody in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis. We were like, yes.
Yeah. And did you see Jeb Bush do his?
I did. I thought it was so funny. I thought it was really funny.
I was like, really,
he said
Jeb?
Jeb exclamation
I know.
point.
I didn't laugh.
I said, oh man, he has resorted himself to opening the Emmys. He really is in between jobs, like he said. He's trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Jeb
And then
has a good sense of humor. I've
does.
seen him talk.
Yeah.
He's kind of funny.
Oh, well, please clap.
yeah,
Please clap. Please clap.
Hand clap.
Yeah, so that is all the trending topics going on around the world right now.
Awesome. Well,
Yes.
thank you, B. Well, listen, Areva, thank you so much for coming
you.
on.
I
the show
love
today.
hanging out with
Come
you
back
all.
anytime.
Please do.
Absolutely. I'm going to come back after you've reached out to your peoples. And your peoples have said they feel better,
Yeah.
right, Elayna? They feel better.
Let's do
one
more to do one last push. I know Simone Sanders, Bernie Sanders' press secretary, is doing a really big push where she's doing 55. She's trying to register and make sure we get out 55,000 African American millennials out to the polls for Democrats across the country and Hillary Clinton. So we want to push that. So you can follow Simone Sanders at Simone D. Sanders on Twitter and check that out because I know she's talking about it a lot too. So come back and we'll do one big
yes.
push,
Right.
one last push.
Bring it
so
home,
listen,
bring it home.
you can follow me on Twitter at Drexel Heard.
You can follow me at Hey It's Lay.
You can follow me at B. Sorrells.
Where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Areva Martin.
Next week we've got Joseph Capps on the show, personality, and make sure you follow the show on Twitter at BHL Polyculture,
Polyculture.
and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Keven Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.